Good morning, everybody. It is Matchup Friday. I'm looking forward to talking about this Detroit Lions, New Orleans Saints matchup Sunday in the Superdome. As we know, the Saints will have a stretch at home this month. Looking forward to it. Look, Coach Nick is back this week. There wasn't a whole lot of good in Atlanta, but you did find one play that you did like.
Found a great one. Yeah,
we will get
was it between
into
the
that.
20s?
Oh,
it was between
in between the 20s. Okay. No surprise there. We'll see if the Saints can take care of the red zone this week, and we're going to talk about that in our matchups. So this might be one matchup that favors the Saints based on how the Lions defense has played in the red zone. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah, it is. We're coming to you from the Toro Hospital studio. We're presented by PJ's Coffee, and if you're looking for a holiday gift this season, check out Woodhouse Spa. We all just went out there, got massages, got right. You know, took a little self care day. Is that what they call it? Self care. Yeah, absolutely. You got to hit it. Treat yourself right. Treat yourself. You deserve it because you've been working hard. Treat your wife. Treat your lady. Treat your man. Whatever you got to do. And if you need a new car, hit up my guy Map Hours. Best dealership in the whole galaxy. Make sure you go there if you need to buy a car. Best customer service. Best customer care. All right, let's hit these ads. The NewOrleans.Football show is proudly presented by PJ's Coffee. PJ's Coffee has some of the best drinks that you can find. They have locations all over the city. They have pastries and everything else you need to get your day started. So go check them out. Are you looking for the perfect engagement ring? Look no further than Friend & Company Fine Jewelers' new engagement salon. This new area houses a wide selection of engagement rings to choose from in all cuts, sizes, and colors. Their experienced staff offer 5-star customer care to help you find the perfect ring to express your love. Visit their new engagement salon today. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers, the perfect ring for the perfect moment and also for the perfect person. 7713 Maple Street between Adams and Burdett Street. 504-866-5433. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers. Check them out at friendandcompany.com. Moe's Barbecue is located in Metairie. They have your game day needs taken care of. Whether you're tailgating or watching the Black and Gold or LSU at home with friends, Moe's has you covered. Order pulled pork, wings, ribs, sides, and more. Come in with the family for lunch and dinner as our kids' meals will please even the pickiest of eaters. Tailgating, parties at home, lunch and dinner, Moe's Barbecue will handle it all. Moe's Original Barbecue, 1101 North Causeway Boulevard between 48th and 49th Street in Metairie. Call 504-407-5333 for your catering order today. 504-407-5333. Moe's Original Barbecue in Metairie. The holidays are a time for giving, and what better gift than the gift of relaxation? With a gift card to Woodhouse Day Spa, your loved ones can choose from a wide range of services to help them de-stress and rejuvenate. Visit their New Orleans, Metairie, Mandeville, Slidell, and Baton Rouge locations today, or visit their website to purchase a gift card and give the gift of relaxation this holiday season. Woodhouse Day Spa, where relaxation is a gift. Hardhide Ponchatoula Strawberry Whiskey is an 86 proof blend of aged wheat bourbon, American light whiskey, and fresh Ponchatoula strawberries. Blended in New Orleans, it is not for the thin-skinned. Look for it in your favorite stores, bars, and restaurants. NewOrleans.Football is proud to be sponsored by Firehouse Subs. Make sure you check out their location on Veterans Boulevard. All right, let's get into the show.
Let's get into our lead topic presented by Friend & Company Fine Jewelers, the official jewelers of the New Orleans Saints. Friend & Company Fine Jewelers is home to a new engagement salon where they have a wide selection of beautiful engagement rings. And while you're there, with it being the holiday season, ask them about their fleur-de-lis collection of earrings and necklace that you see here and I have on now. They are specially priced for our NOF audience. All right, let's get into the lead topic. How will the Saints get back in the win column Sunday against the Detroit Lions?
You know, I think a lot of praying. I think a lot of praying is intact this week. You know, it is coming up, you know, on you know, the holiest season of the year. So like maybe they can tap into something there and pull out a little miracle. But like it's the Lions are playing well. The Saints are not. They got a lot of injuries. Marshawn Lattimore's hurt. Rashid Shaheed's not going to play this week, I don't think. That is just a bruise, I was told. So not a long-term injury for him. But if I'm Vegas, like, you know, I'm not giving the Saints, you know, this is an easy line to set. It's pointing Detroit's direction for me. So, I mean, look, they could come out and play great and beat any team. I mean, I think we all do believe in the talent. It's the fact that they have not been able to maximize their talent and its usage that's been the issue. So maybe they pull a rabbit out of the hat and figure that out this week. But until, you know, I can't predict that. I haven't seen it the whole year.
You just said it, though. We've believed in the talent of this team. I don't know if I believe in the talent this week. I mean, this is adding up now. Marshawn, Mike, maybe Cam Jordan, or at least limited. Pete Werner, Marcus Maye, Rashid Shaheed. Like, all of a sudden, there's a talent deficiency, too, in this game, which makes it scary. The other thing, I have an answer to your question, but when you mentioned 3 games at home, I don't know if this is in the rundown anywhere. That's not good. That's not, I mean, if the Saints go 3 and out on the opening drive, the boos will start on the opening drive. Playing at home is going to be a hostile atmosphere. It's not going to be easy for the Saints to play. So it's just absolutely paramount that they start fast, something they haven't been doing on either side of the ball. But look, we're going to talk a lot about the offense today. We've talked about the offense ad nauseum. I want to make sure we're not giving the defense a free pass. How do they beat the Lions? Well, whatever their stop the run plan was against Atlanta last week, throw that in the garbage, burn it, because Detroit's even better at running the ball. Detroit is 4th in the league in yards per rush, the best they've faced all season, 6th in rushing yards per game, 2 behind Atlanta. But this is another team that's going to want to run all over them. And after watching what they did against Atlanta last week, they do not win if they let Detroit run the ball.
Brooke, how do they turn it around?
We're going to get into that with the key matchups, and that's where we're starting with the run defense. How are they going to handle David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs? Those are 2 names that have been talked about all week in the locker room, and they better be, because these guys are some studs that are going up against the Saints front 7. Montgomery and Gibbs are top 10 in yards per carry. Montgomery is 5th in rushing touchdowns in the NFL. As Mike mentioned, top 6 rushing offense, top 4 in per game. They have over 130 rushing yards per game. And look, it's no secret the Saints have struggled to stop the run this year. The run defense is 23rd in the league, giving up an average of 124 yards per game. Even worse, they gave up the most rushing yards in a game they have all season against the Atlanta Falcons, 228 yards. Bijan Robinson was responsible for 91 of those yards last week. So can they stop this 2-headed monster with Detroit?
I mean, I have serious doubts. So I'm kind of more interested in like how Detroit's going to go about it, because like if Cam's not out there, I'm running at that edge the whole entire game. And you know, it'd probably be Tano maybe in those run situations, early downs out there.
Yeah,
but like,
you're not putting Foskey out there first.
No, he can't. He's not ready for that. He's not ready to defend the run. So like that's where I would go at it, and I would be merciless about it. You know, Kyle Phillips might be up this week. If he's on the field, I'd be merciless about going at him. You know, I think how do the Saints get better? Like their interior run defenders, Colin Saunders, Nathan Shepard, like I've been disappointed with them the last couple of weeks, especially last week. I think it has to start there. Those 2 got to be a lot better at it. But especially with you know the deterioration if Cam isn't able to play, so it's gonna be tough. Like this is a huge thing for them. And you know I said it before, and I think it's still true now. Not having Marshawn out there is a big deal on cleaning up stuff that gets out and gets to the outside. He is a great tackler. They don't have that out there. It's a lot more discipline. It's just everything has to be better this week. It was bad, and I think that Detroit. I mean, they tested every week, but if you can't stop this run, now all of a sudden the play action's going, and if you're down a safety, your safeties are getting tested more on these slow developing plays because they're going to take shots down the field. Yadam's going to get tested more. I mean, it is paramount to not just stop the run, but to score early in this game. And if you don't do those 2 things, I think it's over very, very quickly.
Yeah, look what they let Atlanta do the entire 4th quarter. Atlanta was like, we're not, you know. Now the difference is Atlanta didn't want Desmond Ridder to throw a pass. Detroit's not afraid to let Jared Goff throw a pass. The one good thing for the Saints, Jared Goff probably won't run against them. This might be the one quarterback in the league that doesn't run against the Saints. But then if Jared Goff does break free for like 12 and 15-yard runs, throw in the towel. But this running back duo, I think outside of Christian McCaffrey, I think this might be the best 1-2 punch we've seen in the league this season. And yeah, I made this point before Atlanta. We didn't have a ton of body of work of the Saints run defense against like true rushing teams. We saw glimpses in Indianapolis, which was high and low. They let those big ones go, but it wasn't all day long. Against Atlanta, they got clobbered. And you're right. Like, DA even mentioned it. One thing he didn't sugarcoat this week was they got beat right up front where it matters most, right there in the trenches. Their defensive tackles were getting pushed around. And if you possibly lose Cameron Jordan and Pete Werner from that front 7 as well, it's not going to make things any easier.
It's crazy. I would assume Zach Bond would be up. That would be if that Pete Werner is out. Is that what we're going with?
Maybe so. I mean,
Nephi Sewell,
maybe.
Yeah, Nephi would probably be up. I mean, if Bond being in there in situations where they could throw the ball is just it's scary. I don't know if he's ready for it, but yeah, I mean, if they're running though, maybe you split the difference and you go with him. I mean, boy, too bad Jalen Smith isn't around, Too bad Jalen Smith isn't around.
Yeah, and we'll get the injury report a little later today, which will say game designations, if they're questionable, out, things like that, or doubtful. We'll find that out a little bit later. But as you mentioned, Jared Goff isn't afraid to throw the football, and why should he? When he has Amon-Ra St. Brown on the roster, he will be a challenge for both Paulson Adebo and Isaac Yiadom. He's somebody that we were kind of looking at the stats. Paulson Adebo may or may not shadow him. It's probably looking more toward that he won't. And so we'll see who gets Amon or St. Brown this weekend. But man, he has been on fire. He had 9 catches for 95 yards last week. He ranks 4th in the NFL with 82 receptions and has almost 1,000 receiving yards this season. And he can now become the 3rd player ever behind Odell Beckham and Michael Thomas with 90 plus catches and 900 plus receiving yards in each of his first 3 career seasons. It's going to be a tough task for Adebo and Yiadom. As we know, Adebo, he's playing well this year. He has a career high 13 passes defended this season. He's tied for 3rd in the NFL with 4 interceptions. But the Lions will likely target Isaac Yiadom on the other side of the field. He is the one who has been stepping in for Marshon Lattimore, who is now on IR. He has allowed 2 touchdowns this year. He's giving up 3.9 receiving yards per time targeted. He's been targeted 18 times this year and has allowed 9 completions. How do you think they hold up against this receiver?
St. Brown, could he be one of the most underrated, quietly underrated players in the league? I mean, he's, I think it's because he didn't come in as a 1st-round draft pick, but the things he's doing, it's undeniable. It's going to be, I think, the toughest test they've faced all season. I wish we were seeing Marshon. I think this would be a guy Marshon would shadow. But yeah, I don't necessarily know that they'll do that with Paulson Adebo, but it's a real test for them. They're going to be tested by a receiver like they haven't before. Again, that is the one best thing about this defense, though. We've said this a bunch. They're not getting beat by number 1 receivers. They're not getting beat deep on the outside by receivers. They're not getting beat by quarterbacks standing in the pocket and picking them apart. If anyone's going to do it, it's going to be this combo.
Yeah, you're right. It's this combo because I don't know if they've faced a quarterback. Jared Goff's not even.
I know, but he is 3rd in Jared Goff is 3rd in the league in passing yards per game. He's become that because, as you said, they have maybe one of the best offensive minds in the league.
Amazing coaching. But yeah, I mean, I don't think he's like that singular talent. You're not putting them in that, but he is probably the best quarterback they've faced. Is he the best?
Trevor Lawrence was supposed to be.
Yeah. I mean, so him, and then with this receiver, it might be the best combo of the whole year. So that test for Yiadom, I think it is this week. So it's a huge matchup. You take out a safety potentially. Definitely scary game. I mean, this is the game. If you have any issues in your pass defense, it might show up. I think to this point, you've been able to hide it kind of a little bit if there's anything. I don't think that there are huge issues, but Yiadom being out there is one. And if he's not legit, I think you're going to find out this week.
He has an opportunity to show, though, that he could be a guy that starts maybe on another NFL team if he does really well. I think the Saints are going to make sure he stays on the active roster. But moving forward, this could be a great opportunity for him to show the rest of the NFL what he can do. All right.
Quick question.
Oh, go ahead.
I should have memorized this because I took my notes and I couldn't remember if it's here now. Do you have the Saints pass rush as its own category in here?
We do have their pass defense, yes, a little bit later.
Well,
against Jared Goff. We have that in a couple.
What I was going to say, though, is you would think with Jared Goff throwing the ball as much as he does and being kind of a statue in the pocket who can't run, that, hey, maybe there's finally an opportunity to get to the quarterback in this game. And the Lions are tied for the 4th fewest sacks allowed in the league. They've only allowed 21 sacks. So there's not really an opportunity to win there. It's just a really good team.
Yeah, we're going to get to that in a little bit later. But let's hit Aiden Hutchinson versus Ryan Ramczyk. We expect those two to go head-to-head this weekend. Hutchinson had his 5th tackle for a loss the season last week. Low sack production, as you mentioned, with this team. He only has 5.5 sacks, which is the same as Saints' Carl Granderson. He's generated 47 quarterback pressures this season, tied for 11 most in the NFL. But Ryan Ramczyk has had a pretty solid year. He's only allowed 5 sacks this season. He's winning 82% of his one-on-one battles. So who will win the battle Sunday?
It's going to be a good one. And look, I wouldn't be fooled by the 5.5 sacks. They don't have a ton of talent in their secondary. So I think it's, that plays into how you rush up front. But he's a game wrecker for sure. I think Ramczyk's had quietly a pretty good season. The offensive line's just been so spotty. He had a holding last week, which is a little bit out of character. But I think I think he's had a really good season so far. But just the overall group has been weak. But that's a spot where, again, it's you have to win there because Derek Carr can't handle pressure.
Yeah.
He's not a quarterback that can throw when there's people coming at him. He's 48% there or whatever it is. Probably even fell last week. So you have to keep him clean. And this is a guy that's going to be able to win one-on-ones. Typically, like you said, he is over Ramczyk. I think it's been about like 80 snaps over the left tackle. So there's a possibility he moves a little bit, but I think we're going to mostly see him on that side. And that at least plays into the Saints' hand because if you have him lined up somewhere, that's where you want him. Like if you can get him somewhere else, that's a huge advantage for Detroit. Maybe they try to exploit it, but they haven't done a whole lot of that this year.
Yeah, I was gonna say he is a guy who will move sometimes. So I'm always curious if a team decides when they face the Saints because the Saints are so uniquely built with one of the best right tackles in football and question marks at left tackle. Some of the other teams like Philadelphia that have really good right tackles also have good left tackle play. So I always wonder if teams will be like, let's move our stud over to the left side for this game more than we usually do. And it'll be interesting to see how they attack with him because he's a really special player. Yeah, Ramczyk had the 2 holding penalties, both inside the 25-yard line last week, which was really disturbing. Adding to that, everybody took turns screwing up in the red zone last week. And also, he has started to show up on the injury report with not just Wednesday rest, but now he's been limited 2 days in a row this week with knee. Even coming out of the bye, he was limited on Thursday, and they've started adding knee on there. So I think the long season, I think they're having to manage that. It's not necessarily spilling over into what you see on film, but it's just another thing of this team is now starting to get banged up.
Yeah, it could be a problem. And speaking of the red zone issues, that's where we get to next. Lions red zone defense versus the Saints red zone offense. The Lions have allowed a touchdown on 69% of red zone trips. The Saints went 0 for 5 in the red zone last week. Is this a favorable matchup for the Saints and maybe an opportunity to take advantage of one of the there's not a whole lot of areas that you can exploit the Detroit Lions right now, but if that is one area, can we maybe see the Saints play better in that area of the field?
If by favorable matchup do you mean the Saints have the favor, then no. But there's an opportunity here. Look, Detroit's defense is not a world beater. It hasn't been all season. I mean, they have some good solid stats. They're 5th in rushing defense and stuff, but yeah, they're like tied for 26th in takeaways. They're tied for 24th in overall yards or 10th in yards but 24th in points. So they have 20th in passing defense. They're not that's not how they're winning their games. So if the Saints are going to play a clean, good offensive game and transfer it from just between the 20s all the way into the red zone, this is a defense they can do it against. But as we always say, it's the Saints versus the Saints.
Yeah, I like this matchup for the Saints. Like when Taysom's in, I think they could probably get some stuff done, and he could probably throw some touchdowns around him in. Hand off to Alvin. They've ran the ball really well inside the red zone. So depending on the personnel usage, I think there's an advantage for the Saints here to exploit. And I would be aggressive about getting Taysom in there to make plays. Yeah,
we'll see how Taysom Hill will be used this week. This is one of the ones that we have kind of been watching at practice because he has been involved in the return game with Rashid Shaheed out. We're going to get into that a little bit later. But let's talk about Jared Goff against this Saints pass defense. Jared Goff passed for 332 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions for a 103.6 passer rating in week 12. They have a top 6 passing defense. He's got 18 touchdowns to just 8 interceptions. He's been sacked 20 times this season. Now for the Saints pass defense, not a whole lot of sacks generated right now by the Saints. Opportunity for more in this game, though. Jared Goff is more of a traditional quarterback who will stay in the pocket. The Saints still lead the NFL in passes defended, though, with 72 passes defended. Is this an opportunity for the Saints to win this matchup?
I'm starting to wonder at what point there's too much attrition. Like if you take Cam out, you take Marshawn out, and if Marcus Maye's out, and
maybe Pete Werner,
Pete Werner. At some point, it's just like that's a lot of talent off the field. And as much criticism as DA gets, I still do think he's a good defensive coach. I do. I believe that. I think he hasn't done a great job scheming up necessarily pressure this year. I think you got to get a little bit more aggressive about that. We saw a little bit more last week with some of the stunts and stuff up front, like trying to scheme some of that stuff up. I think you need to just keep doing more and more of that. But like I said, at a certain point, like it's just like there are a lot of guys potentially missing from this game, and it could end up being a huge deal. So I like the matchup for Detroit against this pass defense. And this might be the first time I'm saying that all year because I do think that that's the strength of the whole entire team. Yeah. And, I think you got to make some plays like Tyron, Adebo would be a good time for him to get a pick. It'd be a good time for Alante to finally get that one. So I think there's just opportunities there that they're going to have to take advantage of because I think just the attrition is going to be a massive storyline in this game.
That's totally fair. Like I said, even though the Saints haven't been getting the sacks, they haven't they have kept quarterbacks. They've kept bad quarterbacks fairly uncomfortable. The only thing quarterbacks have really done well against them this year is take off running after they're not finding anyone open. But this is going to be a lot different, and it's a better quarterback and it's a much better receiver than they faced. I'm so curious what their pass rush would look like if they were more aggressive pass rushing. And we finally saw that against Atlanta, but we saw that against a team that barely threw the ball. Desmond Ridder completed 13 total passes in the game. So even though the Saints came in, it looked like finally wanting to blitz more because they couldn't stop the run. They didn't get an opportunity to do it. So I wonder about this same thing. I mean, if we want to see the Saints pass rush, we're going to need to see the Saints maybe force a 3rd and 7 or a 3rd and 8. I don't know if they're going to get that opportunity if they're not stopping the run. So that it all starts there for me.
I'm curious to see how Aaron Glenn game plans for the New Orleans Saints and Derek Carr specifically, which gets to our next matchup. Derek Carr versus the Lions passing defense. Derek Carr passed for over 300 yards in Week 12, completing 66% of his passes. So far this season, he has 10 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. He was sacked 22 times this season. They've got the 11th passing offense in the NFL. The Lions are 20th in passing defense. They've been giving up over 220 yards each game. Passing yards, they're toward the bottom of the league in sacks and passes defended, and they're only blitzing 29.1% of the time. How do you think Derek Carr holds up against this team? It's a question every week, I know.
That's
we don't know. It's a head
protection
scratcher.
question. I do think so. All the things that the Saints have been saying about what they think is a positive this year, and it rings really empty when they're talking about, look how well we're moving the ball, even though we're not moving the ball in the red zone. We have seen improvement from the offensive line. We've seen it in pass protection. It's giving them an opportunity. We need to see that pass protection hold up all across the field. But I mean, that is a key to the game. They're relatively healthy on the offensive line this week. They need to win there. They absolutely need to win there. The offensive line needs to be what leads the Saints out of this.
I mean, I'm sure he'll have his yards. You know, where is he getting them? That's the question. You know, if it's 20 to 20, you know, I don't really know. No, like, you know, like he's gonna have the numbers because that's what they do. They get the numbers, but the numbers don't, like, how many points do they score? That's the only thing that I care about this week. I don't care about them. Like, at the end, they'll probably be able to walk off the field and say, like, we did good against this group. The numbers are there. Like, we had 250 plus yards. Great. Like, did you score? That's the only thing I care about at this point. So I think, yeah, they'll have an advantage overall, but like, there's only one piece of this puzzle that matters at this point, and I have no, you know, I got to bet against it until we see it.
I want to see how Alvin Kamara and Taysom Hill are used in the run game, especially against this Lions run defense. Kamara had 119 scrimmage yards in Week 12. It's his 3rd game with 50-plus rushing yards and 50-plus receiving yards this season. That's most in the NFL. Taysom Hill had a season-high 81 scrimmage yards in Week 12, and he has 50-plus scrimmage yards in 5 of his past 6. But it's a top 5 run defense that they're going against in the Detroit Lions. Their defensive success percentage against the run, 62.3%. It's pretty good. They gave up 109 rushing yards versus the Packers last week and 183 to the Bears in Week 11. So they've kind of trended down in that aspect. But looking at the season as a whole, I mean, they're still defending the run pretty well.
But I think this is kind of one of those look beyond the numbers run defenses, because Detroit plays with a lead a lot, and teams have to stop running against them. As you said, when they got in a game that they lost, if everybody was watching on Thanksgiving, they couldn't stop Green Bay from running the ball, and Green Bay didn't even have Aaron Jones. So I think it's a team you can run against if you run the ball well, and that's it's been an imperative for the Saints. We were talking. Pete Carmichael used a phrase yesterday when we were talking about play action. He said, you have a lot of play action passes you want to get to when you get into second and manageable. And the Saints just haven't been in second and manageable all year. They run the ball on first down, and then it's 2nd and 9 or 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 11. They've shown slight improvement in that area. That's the key, I think, to getting this offense going is you got to be able to run the ball on first down. You got to be able to run the ball in those situations to open up the play action and everything like that. So I think you can do it, and I think we've seen the Saints get better at doing it. But well, you know, remains to be seen.
I don't buy that you have to run the ball well to do play action. A lot of teams will average no yards and they still use play action.
No,
effectively.
you don't need to run the ball to run play action, but they want it to be 2nd and 5 when they run play action. If it's 2nd and 11, people aren't going to buy your run fake as much as what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, but you could run it on 1st and 10 too.
Yes,
and 2nd and 10,
course,
they run the ball on 2nd and 10 all the time.
Yeah.
So using a play action there would actually
Mm-hmm.
probably be set up because you've created this tendency that you got to look for it. So I didn't subscribe to what he was saying because it's just like if I'm a defensive coordinator and it's 2nd and 10, like. I'm thinking they're going to run because they do, especially after an incompletion on 1st down. So that would be a great time to use it. But yeah, I mean, look, I think that we've seen their run defense or their running game trend the right direction the last couple of weeks. This is a game where I think maybe you find out if it's real though a little bit. You know, we'll see what they can do against them. You got to come out there. You got to play. They got some decent guys up front. Like you said, like I think that's a chicken and the egg situation.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the Saints 100-yard rusher thing that they had going for a while. It's like, yeah, when you're winning games, this stuff happens. When you're losing, it doesn't. So that is something. But yeah, I think they have to be effective running the ball to be a good team because that's just how they're built. They're built to do that.
Yeah, just to be clear, I'm not exonerating them for not using play action, but it just struck a chord with me when I heard the phrase 2nd and manageable. I don't think we ever see the Saints in 2nd and manageable. We just never see the team. It's never 2nd and 5 with this team, ever.
Before we hit a quick break, a lot of people have been asking this week about Chris Olave. We did see him practice out there. He was in concussion protocol for the last 2 days, limited as he is still trying to work out of that. Do you expect him to play Sunday? Or is it still too unknown?
You know, when we've been out there, we've seen him like running and making plays, but the fact that he continues to be listed as limiting is it's hard to say.
Yeah.
It's a hard projection to make right now. Like based on what we saw when we went out there Wednesday, it was like, oh, he's playing. Like he was going deep. He was running deep down the field, catching passes, routes on air, all that stuff, and then it was limited. It was like, and then yesterday limited. So I don't know. Like a lot of guys that have gotten a concussion this year end up missing the next game.
Yeah.
So. But he's on the field, so I don't know. I think it's a toss up right now.
He nailed that analysis. I mean, those are two completely like what we're seeing on the field. I would say yes. Just the plain fact that and it's not his first concussion either, so that makes it a really hard, barrier to overcome. But I don't know enough about the science. It's really the doctors are gonna evaluate him after these practices. So we should find out today, though. I think if they say he's cleared the protocol, I think he'll play. But if they say he still hasn't cleared it after 3 days of practice, then I start to be concerned that he's probably not.
Yeah, and that's one of those things. You can't just force your way to test out of concussion protocol. If you're still failing some of these mental tests that they're putting them through behind closed doors, they're not going to just put Chris back out there given the concussion history.
The only other thing that's strange to me is I don't know what they can know, but the fact that they said on Monday we're not going to sign any other receivers and that they haven't. There are only 6 receivers on this team roster and practice squad put together. If Chris isn't playing, Jontre Kirkland will be active for this game. So it makes me think they know that Chris is going to be available.
My only counter argument to that is we see how hard it is for Derek to get on a page with a new receiver.
Yeah.
Like bringing in a guy to play this week. I don't think he'd be able to do it.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. Look, coming up, we will hear from you, the NOF audience, with our question of the day. Of course, we got our game predictions at the end of the show, and Coach Nick is back right after this.
'Tis the season for Gumbo Combos at New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company. Enjoy our hot gumbo, fries, and your choice of shrimp, catfish, soft-shell crab, or frog legs starting at $9.99. That's right, $9.99 at New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company.
No loan payments for 90 days with local financing from Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union on your next auto, boat, RV, ATV, or motorcycle. That's right, no loan payments for 90 days when you close your loan by December 31st. Jefferson Financial offers easy-to-use online applications, fast decisions, and local personalized service. The financial products you want with the convenience you deserve. We are Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union. Apply online at jeffersonfinancial.org. Federally insured by NCUA.
At Toro, we were born for moments like this. From bringing new bundles of joy into the world to delivering what new mothers need to stay healthy. Born to keep hearts beating strong and to keep seniors active and healthy for years to come. Because at Turo, we deliver more than babies. From heart care to cancer care and newborns to seniors, at Turo, we're born to care.
Hey Brad, I got you something I think you're really gonna like for your gift this year.
What? Is this one of those Martin's exclusive bourbon bottles?
Picked it out just for you.
Maya, this is awesome. But I think you're gonna love the gift I got you a little bit more.
Wow.
Mega Wine generic brand vodka. Brad, you shouldn't have.
Don't mention it.
No, Brad, you shouldn't have.
Look, small batch, smooth, soft spice.
I'll take a New Orleans Saints scratch up. Play New Orleans Saints from the lottery. Just scratch, fold, and punch your way to winnings. Punch your ticket with New Orleans Saints. Win up to $100,000. Enter our second chance drawings, giving you a season to smile.
Welcome back to the Turo Hospital studio. Now time for our moment of the day presented by New Orleans Hamburger and Seafood Company. Saints signed Johnathan Abram to the active roster. They're not making the same mistake twice with what we saw with JPP this week. He got scooped right up by the Miami Dolphins because the Saints did not put him on the active roster before the game. He was a standard elevated player and then was available for teams to poach him. The Saints are not going to be doing that with Johnathan Abram. To me, this speaks to maybe the availability Marcus Maye has this week, given he has not practiced the first 2 days of the week on Wednesday and Thursday. We'll see if he practices Friday, but with it being a shoulder injury and not necessarily knowing the severity of it, what do we think is going to happen this week with the secondary?
Well, we're pretty sure they only had 52 guys up last week. So the fact that they lost one is even worse. So, yeah, they didn't have to cut anyone to do this. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that was the deal. Look, I think it speaks to the possibility that definitely Marcus Maye could miss this game, and it's smart to bring him up. They used up all their elevations with him, right? I believe they did with Abram already. So, like, if they wanted him to play in this game, they had to bring him up to the 53. They already used up their elevations earlier in the year when they were dealing with safety injury. So that was something they had to do. Abram had a pick and practice last week on Derek Carr. So, I mean, look, he's been doing good behind the scenes. We'll see what he does in this game.
Much like the Saints themselves, I don't understand all the practice squad elevation rules. I never do the math. I just type it in and I'm like, I guess this makes sense that this guy's being signed, this guy's being elevated, this guy's a standard elevation, whatever. But yeah, Johnathan Abram's basically been a part of this team this year. So I think it's a big drop off, but it's nice to have a veteran experienced guy like that who they can plug in when needed. But yeah, I do think it signals that Marcus Maye is probably going to be unavailable.
Yeah, it's surprising to me too. I keep wondering, like, this mystery with Jordan Howden, like what has happened to him. We asked Joe Woods about it this week, and he said that he was trying to play too perfect at the beginning of the season, and because of that was making some mistakes. But I would expect to see Lonnie Johnson get the start if Marcus Maye is out, and then Johnathan Abram backs him up, or what do we think is going to happen?
We'll see.
I think, but here, and
it's matchup based too.
Just following their history, every time Tyron or May missed time, they put Jordan Howden in. Lonnie Johnson beat out Howden for the dime job. So maybe they like Johnson in the dime role, but maybe Howden is still the guy they like. I think both are in play. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I don't know.
There was something, it seems they soured on Howden, though.
I don't know what happened over the last few weeks, but something did happen. All right, our money segment is back, presented by Jefferson Financial Federal Credit Union. Nick, what's the play of the week? It was bad in Atlanta, but not all bad, at least between the 20s.
I mean, I think there's one obvious one, and it's the Chris Olave bomb early in the game that got him down the sideline. But it isn't just the yardage total that has me going with this one. It's kind of just the entirety of the play. They did a lot of things, again, that this, Pete hit out all the marks on this one. Everything we like to talk about, this play kind of has a little bit of it. So you have Juwan Johnson here, and he's going to end up motioning over here, and then kind of runs a wheel up the sideline. You have Rashid Shaheed right here, kind of like the deep over type route. You got Olave here. Same thing going this way. You got a scissor concept going right there. And you got Foster Moreau. He ends up running a route to the flat. So you got single high. So the idea of this whole play right here is to attack Jesse Bates and try to put him in a situation where he has to make a choice. And the call is just the perfect call against this particular defense. So we're going to show this here. Again, now you got Juwan here, and here's the guy that was coming with him. He's blitzing, or I'm sorry, he comes with them. So they're a man. They're not playing cover three. So your concepts, it's going to work here because you got man, and you're going to have isolation here. And again, it puts this guy just right in a decision where he has to choose everything. You look at the front, you can kind of see this corner is going to be on a blitz. You got to try to figure out, kind of everything else that's coming. So, for sure they're blitzing, and you got 5. You got enough guys here, and you got your running back. So you got the advantage against them right there in the pass rush, depending on what ends up happening on the play. Then you come over to the next one here, and there you go with the blitz. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you got the you got the linebacker coming. But look at this. Look at this. Look at what our guy Derek here is doing. You got the little play action. You got a play action. That's 1 of 45 this year. 1 of 45. 1 of 45. And what's that do? You kind of get everybody looking at the backfield a little bit. This they're locked in there, but you get everybody looking. Everybody's eyes going back there. What are they going to do? They're going to run the ball. Just that little play action right there. It's just a little wild thing they got going on. Innovative. So again, here's our route out here. You got 1, 2, and look at Bates. He's got to make a decision. So you got 1, 2, and then you got him here. So either he's coming here and you got one-on-one over here, or he's going here and you got one-on-one over here and you got the advantage. So you can just kind of, it's a dealer's choice at this point. Everything's kind of isolated, and it's just this perfect concept. Again, against cover 1, you just get that choice right there, and you have a one-on-one matchup one way or the other. I didn't like the throw. This isn't the greatest shot, but he had to leave his feet, come back, go up in the air, catch it. It really should have been a dead play right here at this moment. Chris ends up, going up, making the physical catch. And, one of the things we've seen the last few weeks, and I'm going to jinx him on this, but some of the contested catch stuff I think has been better recently. He ends up, breaks that, comes over here, makes another tackle, miss, and finally eventually comes down at the 35. But look, this is just one of them plays where, let's take it back to the top. We got everything here. We got everything. It's like they stacked everything on top of this concept. Got a little bit of motion. It gets them to declare. And again, just that little bit there, this guy moving, it just lets Carr know right from the jump. This is it right here. He knows exactly where to look. You just got this little read right here. You watch the safety, watch his hips. If his hips go to the outside, you throw to, the route over here to Olave. If his hips go the other way, you're throwing it this way. I mean, it's just such an easy concept, and you just kind of predetermine that read for the quarterback. He doesn't have to look at the whole entire field. He knows right away he's looking at one guy and making a choice off it, and that just makes your job so much easier, especially when you're using the play action because your back's to it a little bit, so you aren't looking at the whole field for the whole time. You're cutting down on that, so when you turn, give them an easy read, give them somewhere to go. That's how you win it, and you aren't putting them at a disadvantage. So I really, really like this play design by Carmichael. They executed it well, and this is why we talk about all these little things. It's just it brings it all together. You get the play action, you get everybody looking, biting. It gives you just that little bit of an advantage, and off you go, and it just makes life so much easier for the quarterback.
I believe that play set up a field goal in that game, if I remember right.
5 made field goals, 6 field goal tries, and you injure your kicker in the process.
What was really valuable about that play in this game was they were looking for opportunities to get Chris Olave going, and that's a game where you just need a little bit of information to find out if you can give Olave a chance to win one-on-one. That was my favorite trend of last week's game is they seemed serious about getting Chris Olave involved, and whether he plays this week or comes back next week, I think that's imperative for the rest of the season.
I think we all feel differently about this game, whether Chris Olave is in or not, right?
Oh, big time.
Him being in really could put the Saints in a better position. With him out, you've got a slew of backup wide receivers that need to, that your top 3, you have your top 3 wide receivers out. It doesn't matter who your quarterback is. That's just going to be a tough game to win.
He played half the game and had a third of their receiving yards last week. I mean, he's everything in this game, especially without Mike. And I think we're pretty sure Shaheed's not going to play in this game. So him not playing, I think they lose if he plays, but I think they lose by a lot if he doesn't.
Yeah.
I think it's big, and I think they have no chance if he doesn't play. And there's that little glimmer of God, I hate myself for saying this, but maybe, but if you take him out, it's just they don't have enough.
You almost have to like whisper it because you can't say it too loudly. All right.
The only maybe in my mind is that's the NFL. No, but the only maybe in my mind is that's the NFL. Like weird stuff happens. The Jets beat the Eagles this year. Like the Saints are overdue to win one they don't deserve to win. They haven't done that all year.
Ouch. All right, let's get to the Mike Triplett segment of the week. We got
Taysom jersey on?
Is it underneath? That's what it's always on. Taysom Hill stays ready. Yeah. All right, it's our fantasy segment presented by the Louisiana Lottery. I want to know how Taysom Hill is going to be used in this game. As we mentioned before, he has been in not just kick, punt, return. I didn't even see him in the locker room yesterday because the guy is in every single meeting room at this point. I'm not kidding. Like he is probably in 8 meeting rooms this week because with Rashid Shaheed down, they're likely going to use Taysom Hill in that return role. So the question now is, how are you going to use Taysom Hill on offense? Over under 8 touches on offense.
Well, I'm taking the over. I do have to admit, though, my favorite stat that I dug up last year and I love to flex with every week, the stat died last week, and he was part of the reason why. He lost the fumble. He lost his first fumble since 2020 on his 7th carry of the game in the red zone. Everybody screwed up in the red zone. And so I kept trotting out. They were 18-1 when he had at least 7 carries. Now they're 18-2 when he has at least 7 carries. 15-1 when he has at least 8 carries, so I can change my stat. But look, they were determined to use Taysom Hill in that game last week. He had 7 runs. He had 2 catches. And now they might be without Chris Olave, or Chris Olave could be limited. Now they're going to be without Rashid Shaheed. Now they're going to have to lean more on their run game, and now they're going to have to throw more to him. I think the combination of the determination to get him involved that we saw last week and being down a couple players on offense, he better be a big part of this game plan. I'll take the over on 8 touches.
I'll take the over. Yeah, I mean, just because it needs to be. So we'll
it needs to be.
Yeah, we'll start with common sense, I guess. I don't know. And there's a lot of guys missing. So I think just logically he has to
he might catch 4 or 5 balls in this game at tight end. And I don't know if they will use him at kick returner because of how important he is to the offense. So that'll be interesting to see.
We'll see what happens. Some of the names that were mentioned were Ugo Amadi, Alontae Taylor, Taysom Hill. They had mentioned that Alvin Kamara had done it in the past. I do not expect to see
Callaway
Alvin Kamara back
Callaway
there.
Could do it.
They mentioned Callaway as well. Yeah, we'll see what happens.
I'd like to see Alontae. I think that
I
he
do
has
too.
it. Yeah.
To me, that like fascinates me. We saw it when we were in Carolina, and I saw it. Actually, took video of it and posted online because I was so surprised to see him getting practice there before the game.
Darren Rizzi also mentioned Tyrann Mathieu' history of returning kicks, which he's not going to do that in this game. But it just made me think, there'd be something to get the crowd going.
Yeah.
Have Honey Badger get back there on a punt return.
This question will get the crowd going. We have had a lot of people ask this in the chat. It is our Martin's question of the day. Martin's is home to a wide selection of hand-picked barrel select bourbon, whiskeys, and more. Martin's is so much more than just wine. All right, the question of the day. If the Saints don't score in the red zone this week, how likely is it that the Saints put in Jameis Winston at quarterback next week?
They'll never admit the mistake like that. They just won't. They aren't going to do it. Like they're too tied in. They got too much money invested in them. They just aren't going to do it. Like I hate. Like should they? I mean, I think Derek Carr has played to a level where I think it should be a legitimate conversation about like should you go to Jameis, should you go to Taysom? I think those are legitimate conversations that should be taking place. I don't think that those conversations are being had because they aren't going to do it. And I think we all know they aren't going to do it. So I think it's a legitimate thing. I would flip it though. Like, should they use Taysom even more in the red zone now? If he continues to struggle, the answer to that I think is empirically yes. Like at a certain point, it's just like, you got to do what you got to do to score these points. And this guy isn't doing it. And if you got to run this system the way you got to run it, go ahead and do it. Like if feelings are hurt or whatever, who cares? Like that's just what it has to be. So that's what I would do with it. Not that I'm saying Derek's feelings would be hurt. I have no idea how he feels about that. But, I do think that, I just don't think that they're going to do it. I don't think there's a scenario where we see Jameis playing over Derek Carr.
Well, there's 2 things working against Jameis. One is he's gotten 3 opportunities to come into the game because Derek got hurt twice. And then there was the one game where they took Derek out. And unfortunately, Jameis ended up struggling in all 3. He threw the first 2 touchdown passes when they were coming back against Minnesota, but then he threw the 2 interceptions. They lost the lead in Green Bay when he was at quarterback. He threw the interception against Tampa Bay. So he hasn't taken advantage of those small openings to make the opening even wider, unfortunately. Small sample size. That's not an indictment on Jameis, but he just hasn't added to that. Man, every time this guy comes in the game, good things happen. But the argument for Jameis is that you should go back in time and save $25 million and say, look, we're gonna keep committing to Jameis. they, as Nick said, they have too much invested in Derek Carr now. And even if I think maybe Jameis would light a spark, it's the Saints' job, responsibility. It's imperative that they do whatever they can to figure out how to get Derek Carr going because they're married to him for 2 years. Only 2 years, but for 2 years.
Let's flip this. Like, when would the breaking point be for you, though? Like, if you're on the Carr thing, like, at what point do you say, like, okay, this...
Here's the frustrating thing. If you get to that point, the season has already been lost. Like, you're not even in playoff contention at that point. And that's where I think it's unfair to throw Jameis Winston in at that point just to win, just to string together, maybe string together a couple of wins at the end of the season. I think they would put in Jameis Winston after the NFC South title would be out of reach. And to me, it's, you would want maybe that to happen and have them make a change to keep the title for the NFC South. It's a really hard place to be in because, as you mentioned, Mike, that Green Bay game is going to stick with him and stick with this coaching staff. Look, he had an opportunity to maintain a 17-point lead, and he came in and I mean...
He played okay.
But I mean, it wasn't just him in that game that lost it. I think the defense threw it away in the second half against Green Bay, but Jameis Winston has had the opportunities to show it. Minnesota was a better game for him. Yeah. I think if he doesn't throw the 2 interceptions and maybe there's a little bit of a better game plan, like we mentioned, I don't agree with some of the play calling when Jameis was in at the end of the game. Like, they were acting like the game was already over on some of the Hail Marys, and it's like, no, like, you've got time left, string together a couple of plays, move the ball down the field. I mean, they had an opportunity to be back in that game thanks to Jameis. Now, if Jameis would have won the Minnesota game, I might feel a little differently, but at this point, I think a lot of people are just tired of seeing the red zone woes. So at this point, they're like, why not throw Jameis in there? And it's hard for me to disagree with those people.
But back to the conversation about how much they have invested in Derek Carr, you could say that like it's a bad word. You could say, well, they spent so much money on him, they're stuck with him. Well, they are. That's a fact. So get it right. Like, like if this season is going nowhere, then spend it on figuring out how to regain Derek Carr's confidence, find out what he's good at, find out what he likes, get him on the same page with receivers, because he's the starting quarterback going into next year too. So, it's the same thing as what I would say about a first-round draft pick or something. Figure out Derek Carr, because Derek Carr is part of this team for at least 2 years. Now, that doesn't mean they might not draft one next year, but his salary is guaranteed for 2 full years. So he's your quarterback next year. So I do want to keep investing in him and trying to figure out how to make him work.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's logical. Yeah.
All right. Game predictions.
Lions.
Yeah, I'm picking the Lions to win.
Score prediction?
What's yours?
Honestly, I'm afraid this is going to be a blowout. I don't see a situation where the Saints win this game. How can I say the Saints are going to win this game when I thought the Saints would lose to the Falcons? I would be the dumbest reporter on here if I said the Saints would lose to the Falcons and then say they would beat the Lions. I just don't see it happening in this game. I think there is some feelings on the Detroit Lions side of things. Look, you got Aaron Glenn coming back into the building, Dane Campbell, some other guys that have Saints ties. I think they have something to prove in the Superdome. The Lions are also coming off a really embarrassing loss on Thanksgiving. I think they're going to be coming back with a lot of fire and wanting to prove to the NFL that they are still a solid team right now in the NFL. I could see the Lions putting up like 40 points on the Saints. I hate to say that, but I think that it could potentially be that.
Yeah,
I don't know if the Saints are going to score a touchdown in this game, to be honest with you.
No, see, I actually, weirdly, I shouldn't have any, not confidence, but I could see a scenario where, like, hey, look, the Saints finally got some offense going. Like, this time they scored 3 touchdowns or whatever. I do not think this Saints defense, especially if they're down, the players are down this week, can stop Detroit from running the ball and just doing what they want on offense. I don't know if that means 40 points, but it might mean 40 minutes time of possession. Like, I'm more concerned about that side of the ball. Not more concerned, but that's where I hate this matchup for the Saints.
I think they're going to get beat pretty good. I mean, I do. Maybe they come out and show some fight. There's been a lot of adversity this week, and I think that would answer a lot of questions about what this team is. If they come out and they fight and they just kind of they have the FU energy and shut everybody up, that would tell you something about them. I would love to see it.
We would love to see that. Yeah, make no mistake. We want to see if this team can respond.
This is that opportunity on the schedule. Like, the next 2 home games are Carolina and the Giants. That is like, you have to win or don't bother coming back here.
Right.
This is their only opportunity to surprise people and say, take that. We don't like this narrative that everyone's down on us. This is their only opportunity to show us something really surprising.
Yeah, because like if they beat the Giants 42-0, like
Okay.
yeah, like
that won't happen. I don't think they can score that many points in a game.
Remember when they beat New England 34-0 this year?
And look how bad New England's playing. It's
I know,
just like
but
an
still,
indictment on that
34
win.
points
that's
better
what I'm
than
saying.
anybody,
Yeah, like if they
feels like.
smoke the Giants, it's just like
Okay.
all right, yeah,
Cool.
great.
You putting a number on this game?
Oh, geez. I'll go 34-10.
Wow.
How bad would the
13.
How
I'll
bad
go 13. Groupie's going to show. If Groupie plays, I'll go 13. I'll go 13.
Okay. If it is that bad, how bad is the booze going to be from the Saints?
They're going to be
fans?
relentless. They're going to start early. I mean, we've heard from enough of the fan base, not just the ones who tweet, not just the loudest ones, the ones that we are related to, the ones that we see in our everyday lives. We've already heard it in the Superdome, and then they went on the road and had probably their 2 worst losses of the season. If they don't get off to a good start in this game, it's going to be a hostile home environment. It's going to be really bad.
The last time they were there was the Bears win?
Yeah.
That was the last time home, and it was just a horrible atmosphere in the Dome. It was a very, very weird atmosphere, and to be honest with you, they're lucky they left that game with a win.
They look terrible. Yeah, I mean, and the crowd kind of fell out of it.
Yeah.
Look, if Olave wins, I'll jump up to 20. I'll give him another 7 in that. But like,
to me,
34-20 is where I'm at.
if Olave's in this game, I'm giving the Saints at least two touchdowns in this game. But
throw a number on it.
Like I said, I thought the Lions are going to put up 40 points.
Wow.
Okay.
Like I would not be surprised if it's like 42-14 if Chris Olave's in, and if Chris Olave's out, you know how I feel. So I think it's going to be bad. I hate to say it. Again, I hope I'm wrong. I want to see like a competitive
I'm more
football
of a
game, just like anybody would
27-16
be.
kind of guy, but
I
either
don't
way,
know.
we're all picking the Lions.
I
to
think the
cover.
Lions are just coming in pissed off, and that's what's scary with Dan Campbell. Like you talk about this from like a college football perspective, and a team coming in with that kind of attitude, and you're like, okay, you can see it from the college level. You don't necessarily see that all the time at the NFL, but with Dan Campbell having this team and just these. He is a true player's coach. I mean, they're going to ride for their head coach. They know the situation in New Orleans, and 2 coaches, their DC and their head coach coming back into the Dome for the first time. They're trying to prove that they're not the team that lost on Thanksgiving. Like
Defensive
it's a
injuries
recipe.
too. Like it's a huge.
There's a
it's
lot of
tough.
defensive
Yeah.
injuries. That's why I'm saying like I just don't. I could see this being
I hope
bad.
the Saints are the more pissed off team.
You would hope.
Yep.
You would hope. We'll see. We'll be in the locker room a little bit later, and we will give you guys some updates. So be tuned in with us on NewOrleans.Football. Thank you guys so much for joining us live in the morning. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube if you guys like what we have been doing, and we'll see you next time.
On Louisiana.Football.